Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 293 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz. Thank you very much for joining us on a very special night, as we're going to be doing two very exciting things. Number one, we will have Jim Goodman on, the Director of Wagering Development at Keeneland Racecourse. Keeneland's fall meet, always an unbelievable meet of stakes and great racing, starts next weekend. And we have Jim Goodman here in just a few minutes to talk briefly about all the wagering options at Keeneland Racecourse. And then there is a late pick 5 at Santa Anita on the West Coast this Saturday. It's opening weekend, Santa Anita. Wow, what a fantastic late pick 5, 4 stakes. Preps for the Breeders' Cup, including the Win and You're In Awesome Again stakes. That's coming up right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Hit that notification bell, because we have a lot of great shows coming up on this podcast. Everything you'd want to know about the Breeders' Cup will be right here, and you don't want to miss a thing. So please hit that notification bell so you know when new content will rise, and smash. Please hit that like button, which will tell the YouTube algorithm to send people to the HHH Racing Podcast. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. You can follow me at my email there on my name tag at HKravitz. Excuse me, that's my Twitter or X handle at HKravitz. And then scrolling to the bottom of the screen, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. hkravitzhorse@gmail.com is my email. Questions, comments, concerns. We don't get as many comments below the video player, but below the video player, especially if you're watching this as a replay, and we have a lot of people that watch live. We also have many, many, many people that watch as replays, either video or audio. Please comment below the video player on YouTube. Anything about the show, good things, things you don't like, opinions you have on the races, we'd appreciate it. You can subscribe to our Power Picks. Look below the video player. Regular Power Picks on Saturdays. We also now have Keeneland only. Brand new this year. Keeneland only Power Picks, ABC grids, spot plays, price plays, $3 all-turf pick 3 grids and selections. You do not want to miss. It's very inexpensive, very profitable. Look below the video player for more information. And the Keeneland Power Picks are available on our website, hhhracingpodcast.com. Just to be clear, our regular Saturday Power Picks, which you now see on the screen, are available by going to patreon.com. Again, in the description below the video player, all the information. There's our website again, hhhracingpodcast.com. Pete Visco does a great job with that. All right. I think that takes care. No, there's one more thing. Instagram. We're on Insta, as the kids like to say. So hit us up on Instagram. Feel free to post something. We'd like to hear you. Instagram.com/HHH Racing Podcast. Please go ahead and follow us there on Instagram. Let's go ahead and see quickly. We got some people commenting here. We have a lot of people already in the chat. Matt Miller, I'll be showing your comment in just a minute. Same thing with Kyle Roscoe. Terry Frank from St. Louis. Met him at Saratoga this past summer. Good evening, everyone. I've subscribed to Keeneland. There you go, Terry. Keeneland Power Picks already for Terry. Main Focus. Happy TNF. What's up? Main Focus is here. Perhaps he's got some, we're not looking at any maiden races tonight, but I'm sure he's got some great opinions on other races. Michael Austin, of course, he's going to be here because he's a West Coast guy. Will Craig. Hey, guy, can't wait. I can't watch the show live. That's okay, Will. You can watch as a replay. Thanks for commenting. Let's see here. Oh, here's a new name. Bedri Oakday. And if I mispronounce your name, Bedri, I greatly apologize. Hello, everyone. Bedri, please say hello to Bedri, new to the show on our chat. Welcome. Appreciate that. And let's see what else. Richard Avalar is here. We've got Adam Morales is here. All right, got a lot of all the important people and then some are here. Speaking of important people, let's bring in my wonderful co-host. How's that? That was a pretty good transition. From the East Coast of Maryland and proud father of a 12-year-old now, Pete Pisco, and from the Saratoga Special and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the one and only Mr. Paul Halloran. Guys, how are we doing tonight?
What's up, gents?
Proud father of a soon-to-be 32-year-old.
Hey, well, happy birthday. That's pretty cool, for sure. I've got Keeneland in the background, and then we're going to switch over to Santa Anita in the background. I see the Keeneland hat, Paul. I love it. I was going to bring a second hat with me here. I've got my Santa Anita gear on already, but, I was going to switch in midstream. We're going to talk with Jim Goodman, guys, here in just a minute from Keeneland Racecourse. Paul, I know you've had the pleasure of meeting Jim. What an outstanding guy he is and a great job he does at Keeneland.
And it was definitely a pleasure because the first time I ever met Jim in person was the day of the Grade 1 Gamble. So Jim and Keeneland hold a special place in my heart.
That was a pretty good day. And for those of you who are wondering, we're just waiting for once Jim pops on here in the background in the green room, we'll bring him on. Pete, where do you fit Keeneland into your sort of wagering faves in terms of meets? It's a very short meet, in the spring and summer, or spring and fall. But boy, they are just jam-packed with stake races. And I personally love the racing at Keeneland.
Yeah, they have great racing. I mean, for me, it's just I tend to just look at wherever the big days are. So the track isn't necessarily what track it's at isn't necessarily as important. I just kind of look and see what track are we on this weekend and which ones have the big days, and that's the ones I tend to focus on. So Keeneland, because they're so jam-packed, I always wind up playing them pretty consistently.
Yeah, they've got Fall Stars weekend coming up a week from this weekend. Yours truly will be there along with Kyle Roscoe, and actually he's bringing his whole family. Kyle Roscoe from Benton Boozin, his mother is coming. His mother's never been to Keeneland. His father has. Not only that, guys, we're going to be, I'll thank Jim Goodman when he comes on here in a second. We're going to be in the green room, which Paul may know about that. I don't know, Pete, you don't. It's basically a VIP sort of, it's made for like their VIPs and high rollers. And of course, I'm not a high roller, but I'd like to think I'm at least a little important. Not about very important, but a little important. And it's a great place. It's sort of a private area, and it's going to be fantastic. I will be there cheering on a horse that we know pretty well, guys. A horse named Shards, hopefully. Cross our fingers on Sunday in the Indian Summer. And we got Kyle Roscoe. Shout out, Mama Roscoe. Excited for next weekend. Absolutely. Kyle, Sean Kane. Sean Kane will be there also. What's up, Sean? How are you? Let's see here. Just trying to see what else. Richard Avalar said, Howard, Santa Anita is my all-time favorite track. I won the Malibu in 89 with Music Merci. Wow, very cool.
Wow.
That's impressive. The Malibu in 1989. I was a junior going to be senior in high school at that time. But that's pretty cool, Richard. So that's great. Brad Anderson is here also. Evening, gents. Keeneland and the fall go hand in hand. Looking forward to the meet and having Jim join the show. Absolutely. Michael Austin loved Keeneland. It's fantastic. Maiden Focus has a comment about wagering, which we'll wait on. Tom Espinoza. Hello, everyone. Sneaking in. Can't watch live. Santa Anita always drop. Tom Espinoza dropping some picks on us for
picks. I love it,
late
Tom.
pick 5. I love it. He's got, 327 in that 832. Sorry, the first race. The 8 horse in the first leg. Wow, that was a name we haven't seen in a while, guys. Excited to have.
Yeah, it's a tough call.
Absolutely. So I'm sort of delaying here. I don't have Jim Goodman's phone number, actually. Do you have his phone number, Paul?
You know what? I don't know. I'm going to check.
I don't think
I do.
While Jim is looking that up, Pete. Jim said he's backstage, but he's not backstage.
He's probably backstage on a different show that he thinks
he could be. I wonder if I screwed up. All right, so
There goes your VIP room access.
Yeah,
Howard.
really.
Maybe they'll
No,
let you
I don't. I
maybe
have
they'll
his
let you
email.
bartend or
We'll
something.
get his number for
that would be
future
a
reference.
that'd be a very rare mistake because I almost never do that. Pete and Paul, why don't you guys, as we're waiting here, chat about what you saw at Santa Anita for the pick 5, just in general, no specific picks. And I'm going to email right now,
Go ahead.
Jim Goodman, because there's a mistake one way or another here. It looks like.
Speaking of
good
Keeneland, though,
sequence,
Paul.
right,
Oh,
Pete?
sorry. I was just going to say, speaking of Keeneland, real quick, Nick, and Mike, the guys you met at Saratoga,
Yeah.
we're actually planning a 2024 trip to Keeneland. That's going to be, we're going to try and do a different track that none of us have ever been to. So I'm excited for that. But
Can I make a recommendation, Pete? Go
please do.
the weekend of the Grade 1 Gamble.
You know, I was thinking that I was supposed to come up with dates, and I have been lazy with doing that. So
April 15th-ish.
That sounds like a good time too. That sounds like a perfect time. Will you
I can tell you when it is because I've had my hotel booked for quite a while.
I was going to say, are you defending your title? Obviously.
Well, I'm going to.
You're going to try.
We'll see.
I said defend.
I'm going to participate again. I'm going to participate, Pete.
Does the champion get free entry or anything, or do you have to?
No, I don't think so. No, there was plenty of perks that went with that. So I think, Pete, it's the 13th.
Okay. Well, actually, I'll suggest that as a day. So let's talk about the sequences real quick. I thought
it was a good sequence, Pete. That second leg is tough. With that maiden. That race is really not only a maiden special, but a Calbred special, maiden special. Yeah. You could look at some double will pays, which may help. But I'll be honest with you, looking at that race, Pete, and I did probably spend more time on that race than I did on any race in the sequence. I'm pretty sure the morning line favorite in that race is in the 7-2 range, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So the probables might not help you that much, unless if someone's taking an inordinate amount of money on that type of spread on the morning line, then yes, that would help you. But boy, Pete, I thought that race was tough. We'll talk about it. I was 4 deep and would like to be deeper, to be honest with you. But the stakes are good. The stakes are good.
The stakes they're competitive. Yeah. The weirdest thing about this weekend, there's so many like races you would think are Breeders' Cup sort of prep races, except that there's not that many horses. The one disappointment was when I'm looking at these, there's not that many horses that I look at and think, oh, I could see myself playing that horse to win a Breeders' Cup race. Yeah. Aside from Cody's Wish and then the Hirsch. The Hirsch actually has some ones that can make some noise Breeders' Cup weekend. Like the
Let's
Cody's
hope it
Wish
stays
race.
On turf, by the way, Pete.
Oh, is the weather looking bad? I didn't even check.
Oh, yeah, of course. It's the East Coast and it's a weekend. Of course the weather's looking bad. Howard, do you have anything to report while Pete and I are carrying the show as usual?
Listen, it's been a long major host fail. I actually sent him the wrong link. I sent him a link to Betting and Boozing, which I don't think I've done that in over a year. But Jim was, of course, very gracious. He now has the link. I know, Pete. I deserve it. He has the link, guys, and Jim Goodman will be on here any minute now. So we appreciate everyone's patience there. They're going to run the Joe Hirsch on the turf, guys. I mean, they have to.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. I think everything else might be off the turf, but I mean, they're gonna run that race on the turf. And I don't know if you guys. Here comes Jim right now. Jim, if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up, please, sir, in the background there. All right, awesome. We're going to be on Jim right now. They have to run those races, on the turf. Otherwise, they're going to have bad fields. Anyway, thanks, everyone, for being patient. Let's bring on right now the director of wagering development at Keeneland Racehorse. I consider him a friend and a friend of the show. Just an incredible guy. Does an incredible job at Keeneland Racecourse. And he's still here because he's being very patient because I screwed up. So let's bring him on. Jim Goodman. Jim, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Great. I wasn't going to blame that on you, Howard, but I was going to blame it on Paul. But
Jim, we were going to blame it on him. Don't worry.
Right.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing great. I've been dealing with sports wagering all day since we launched.
That's right.
Sports wagering in Kentucky today. So we're partnering with Caesars. So I've learned a whole lot about the sports wagering app today.
Is it at Keeneland, Jim? Do you have wagering right there?
No, we partnered with Red Mile. So
okay,
we do the HHR there, the historic horse racing.
Correct.
So we modified part of the old clubhouse. We got a really nice, fairly small sports book, but it's really good. A lot of energy, and so we're sending people there during the live meet. We're going to have activations points for those guys that want to sign up for the app. So we're doing well. Red Mile's been very busy. It's a great location. It's right off the UK campus, a mile from downtown. So yeah, it's really good.
Good for you.
And great harness racing there. I'm a harness racing fan as well.
The Grand Circuit started today, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
There you go. Big time stakes there and drivers.
Yeah.
Jim, I'm sure you're well aware of this, but that gentleman on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, the current Grade 1 Gamble champion from at Keeneland Racecourse. And let's just transition right into some contests very quick, Jim. We'll get into the wagering in a second, but we're big fans of contests here. And I wanted, before we get into the specifics on contests, we are going to show you some comments at the bottom of the screen, Jim, as always on this show. And I've one from someone you know very well, if I can get it up here in just a second, who is currently having dinner right now. But you see on the bottom of the screen, Matt Miller jumped into the chat before dinner to make sure to say hi to Jim Goodman. I'll be watching on delay once dinner is over. Looking forward to seeing you soon, my friend, as the BCBC crew, Jim, is on its way to Santa Anita. Myself, Matt Miller, Brad Anderson, Drew Coatney, and this guy on the bottom right-hand corner who qualified for the BCBC.
Great. It is amazing that this connection with, Matt Miller talked to me, prior to his big win out on the West Coast, and then all the connections between Brad and you guys and Paul winning my contest last year this spring was absolutely great. And obviously I'm thrilled for you guys, and it promotes our contest world to see that it really does pay to pay contest. And I think Drew Coatney would testify to that as well.
For sure. We got, let's see, we have Robbie Courtney. Hello, Robbie. We have a lot of new names. It's so awesome. We see some new names here on the chat. He'll be at the BCBC. What's going on, Robbie? And says hello to you. I have so much respect for you, Jim Goodman. So a lot of the Jim Goodman fan club is out tonight. And also, before we get to contests, I just want to mention before we get Kyle Roscoe will be at Keeneland next weekend, as well as myself and Jim. I cannot thank you enough for taking I want to say this publicly, for taking care of myself. Also, Kyle Roscoe's parents as well. It's first class all the way, Pete and Paul. That's what I love about Keeneland. People like Jim, the hospitality is absolutely the top of the top in the country, along with the wagering and the product as well. So thank you, Jim, for all that.
Appreciate that. Glad to do it. It's actually for Kyle's fiance. It's not for you guys.
Oh, well, there we go. Well, listen, smart man. We appreciate it. I don't care who it's for, but we appreciate it.
And he's a very lucky man. So
he sure is.
I actually corresponded with him a couple of times today. Yeah.
Great. Emma is fantastic. Kyle's fiance. Jim, contests. Let's go through a few things. We'll just be very brief with you tonight. Appreciate your time. Talk first about what contests are available at Keeneland this fall meet.
Okay, we got two contests. Our main contest is Saturday the 14th, and that's my $3,500 BCBC NHC challenge, which is exactly the same format as a Grade 1 Gamble. We started Grade 1 Gamble probably 14 years ago, and then we followed that up with a fall contest. Tim Schramm from Breeders' Cup talked to me about getting something done for BCBC spots. So we've put a bunch of BCBC spots together over the years. We usually give away 6 in that contest. So same format as the contest that Paul won in the spring. $3,500, $2,500 is bankroll. $400 a race times 5, and you got to bet your whole bankroll. And it's available at Keeneland and every ADW that had in those contests. So HPI in Canada, along with TVG, 4NJ bets, NYRA bets, and Express Bet. So we had 200, and I think, Paul, you beat 293 people. Is that about right? I think
I was going to say 252, Jim, but if you want to say 290, you go right ahead.
I think my record's 293, and then Brian at Monmouth beat me just a little bit. He had over 300 in his contest in the Pick Your Prize contest. Of course, it's a $1,500 contest, so my handle was better. And the prizes were better for Paul than they were out at Monmouth. So we got a little game going on, but I hope to have 250, 260 in this contest. And if we do, we'll give away 6 BCBCs, 10 NHCs, and probably first place will be in the neighborhood of 50 to 60,000. Wow, nice contest. Now on Friday, prior to that, we'll do a $400 contest for all the people who show up early. And you can buy up to 4 entries. It's a $250 bankroll. Bet it pretty much any way you want inside the race. So it's very simple. I'll give away 1 BCBC and up to 4 NHCs in that one.
Jim, the Saturday contest you can play online, right?
Yes, all those places we talked about. Yeah.
Good.
Prior to COVID, you had to be here. But once COVID hit and we had to do all online, everybody loved that so much. It's hard for me to get out of that habit. I love to have people at the track. As Paul was, but some people can't travel. It's a lot less expensive and a lot easier to do it online. So we have a hybrid, just like BCBC is.
And the Friday contest is in person, though, correct?
Correct. It's only in person, right?
Okay. Let's talk also. The contests are great. I know many people are going to be involved in those contests, and why wouldn't you? Because, well, just ask Paul Halloran. I think I'll tell you how wonderful. Is Tarabi running next weekend, Paul? Should we find out?
I don't think Tarabi's run since, and that's just fine with me. Tarabi did his job.
Jim, let's talk about some of the wagering options that are available at Keeneland. And I know there's 2 things that you want to mention specifically. The $3 all-turf pick 3 is just a fantastic bet. It's so good that I believe Santa Anita has now stolen from you. And also the 15% low takeout at Keeneland. Let's first talk about the $3 all-turf pick 3, whether people are familiar with it or not. It's a great bet. And good friend of the show and friend of mine personally, Matt Bernier from FanDuel, one of his best scores of the year was in the spring with a very nice $3 all-turf pick 3 that I think he hit several times. Talk about that bet and how it actually started, Jim.
It started with talking with players like you. Jonathan Kinchin was one of them. A couple other guys that joined in that were looking for higher minimum wagers. A lot of people who play serious money are not really for that 50-cent pick 4 or that 50-cent pick 3 or that 10-cent superfecta especially. So one of the things we talked about was a $5 double or something like that. And I just looked at our turf racing and I looked at our full fields and how our handle is so much better on turf racing than it is dirt. And I felt like that a $3 pick 3 with the turf races would be a challenge from a handicapping standpoint, and it would also pay well. And that's what you want. You want to say, hey, this paid $3,000 yesterday for a $3 bet. And it can't be watered down. The CAWs do not play it because it's not sequential races, so it's all retail. We average we have between 100,000 and 200,000 in the pool, depending on what day it is. So it's a substantial pool, and I just like it from a standpoint of offering an option to somebody who doesn't want to play the regular pick 3 and who also wants to tie non-sequential races together. So that's something that's unique. And turf racing, obviously, is when we have good weather here at Keeneland, it's the best racing anywhere. So that's the reasons we did it. I wish I'd copyrighted it so I would get a piece of Santa Anita's handle. But we kept the 15%, and that's very important. Every new wager we've done, we did the pick 5 a number of years ago. We put it at 15%, and we did this at 15%. And you see what the biggest growing handle is. If you look at pick 5 handle for the last 5 years, it has grown threefold at least. And people look at the pick 5 payoffs at a 15% takeout versus a pick 4 at in our case, a 22% takeout, in California's case, 23.6. So the 15%, along with the lure of the pick 5 payoffs, also increase the allure of the pick 3, and that $3 minimum knocks out a lot of people who are just playing 50-cent minimums. So it pays well. It usually pays well over the parlay.
A recent issue that I want to bring up at other tracks, not Keeneland, not many tracks, but a few tracks, is if someone plays the all turf pick 3, Jim, and there's a rainstorm and one of those races is rained off, please correct me if I'm wrong. Do they get an all button, or would there be a consolation for that leg?
Okay. Our pick 3 rules are if it's rained off in the middle of the sequence, they get all.
Okay.
The only kicker is that, let's say it's rained off and the last leg of the pick 3 has 12 horses in there. You're going to get a consolation for the horses that scratch. You're going to get an all for the horses that run. And that's different than a pick 4. And you guys are all nodding because you understand it, but that's really hard to explain to a novice, because the pick 4 and pick 5 and pick 6 have a post-time favorite migration, and the pick 3 doesn't. So I'll get calls and say, hey, I had 12 horses in pick 3. Yeah, but 6 of them scratched. So you get a consolation payoff for those 6, and you get an all for the other 6.
Interesting.
What we do at Keeneland is we try our best not to do that. And unless we have a sudden rainstorm, knock on wood, we haven't had to do it the last 4 meets. So hopefully we won't do that. I think that's one of the worst things that can happen to a horse player, is that you handicap for a sequence and all of a sudden they take it off in the middle of the sequence and you're just stuck with horses you didn't want.
Nah, for sure.
There is no better rule, because if you noticed Parks the other day, they didn't give, they didn't do anything. And that's their rule, and that's okay. I always tell a horse player, you have to know the rule before you make the bet.
Yeah.
Because it's up to you to understand that if you have crazy weather, then, okay, I know at Keeneland, I'm going to get an all, but at Parks, you're going to get what you got. The horses that you handicap for turf, they take it off, and now you got them for dirt. So you have to handicap according to the rules. And I'm not criticizing Parks. But I think it illustrates the people that complain about the migration complained more about the Parks rule.
Fair enough. Before we move forward, the aforementioned Kyle Roscoe's fiance, Emma, is something in the chat there, Jim.
Hey,
Jim, what a fantastic shout out. You are just too sweet. Oh, Emma, isn't that nice? I'm so excited to see you again next weekend. So shout out there from Emma Newhouse, Kyle Roscoe's fiance. I want to make sure I give Pete and or Paul, I didn't actually ask you guys if you had questions for Jim, but I want to ask 1 or 2 other quick things before I do that. Peter or Paul, any quick questions for Jim on Keeneland?
I actually had one quick one based on something you say. Hey, Jim, nice to meet you officially. Now that you said you're getting more acquainted with the sports betting side, it may be early in the process, but have you learned anything in terms of either takeout or wagering in general from the sports betting side that you think you can use or learn from for the racetrack betting side?
Yeah, obviously the takeout is less on a sports bet. And I personally, and I feel like that we as a track are very much in favor of a lower takeout. And that is, reflected in the fact that we do the 15% takeouts. I think takeout for the industry across the board is too high. And we as an industry need to address that. And I think as sports wagering gets more prevalent, I think the players are going to determine what we wind up doing, because we're hoping that a lot of handle doesn't migrate over to sports betting. But if you take a look at the bet and you're at a 5 to 10% takeout versus a 25% takeout on a superfecta at some tracks, yeah, it's pricing. It's I still love horse racing. I'm always going to love horse racing. I'm never going to migrate over to sports betting. And I would imagine that the people I'm talking to here will not as well. But I think if you look at the younger generation that has grown up with sports betting, they look at it as something, first of all, it's easy, that's easily learned. You can open that app and you can be proficient in it in 10 minutes. How long does it take you to get proficient reading a racing form? So we have that battle to fight as well as a takeout fight. So I think we as an industry certainly need to look at what our takeout rates are.
And Jim, the great comment from one of our excellent fans and excellent handicapper, Maiden Focus, a rising tide floats all boats. And I know that's a big theme of Peter Thomas Forenstal within Money Media and also us here at the podcast, that if you can increase, sports betting, you can increase horse racing betting, et cetera. And just there's a market out there. It just has to be reached.
Yeah, and one thing we've done at Red Mile, our retail place is at Red Mile, and we've integrated horse racing and sports betting. So when Caesars came in to outfit the area we're using, we put horse racing terminals in there as well. We have certain TVs on horse racing, and we also put sports terminals up on our simulcast floor. So we've got where if you want to come and focus on horse racing, but you can walk 10 steps basically and bet sports. Same thing downstairs in the sports bar. So we try to work it together. We know in Kentucky that horse racing is number one. Sports betting only came about because of horse racing, and it's only at racetracks. That's the only place you can have a brick and mortar place in Kentucky. So we're never going to lose sight of horse racing in Kentucky. I can promise you that.
We've got a lot of great questions in the chat, and I'm going to ask you one more question, Jim. Please keep sending questions in the chat, and we'll get Jim to answer them, and we'll let you go. My question about the pick five, Jim. I love the horizontal betting, of course. There's a 50-cent pick five available at Keeneland. They usually have two of them, one early, one late. My question to you, Jim, is a lot of people do not know that at Keeneland, and I believe Gulfstream, and I'm not sure where else, there is 4 out of 5 that pays out. My question is, why did you folks decide to pay out 4 out of 5? What was the impetus behind that? And do you recommend that for other tracks?
That's a very good question. I get the bigger the player, the more they complain about that. The smaller the player, the more they love that.
Yep.
So somewhere in the middle, I don't know what the right answer is, but I'll tell you the reason that we did it. Keeneland was the first track in Kentucky to offer a pick five. And so when the racing commission, we have to send in our rules to the racing commission. And I basically mirrored my pick 6 rules and just changed the 6 to a 5 and the 5 to a 4. I made a decision, totally uninformed at the time, and this was 12 years ago, I guess, that I think that it's good that if somebody gets 4 out of 5, they get enough consolation that they at least break even and they churn that money back. That's the total decision process that I had. It may be flawed for a big player, but the big player, if he hits a ticket, and he might have 16 to 20 4 out of 5s. So it's not really a 25% reduction in what he pays. It might be a 10% reduction. So the track has to look at a situation where, would I rather have you hit one for $50,000 and take the entire pool, or would I rather you have it for $37,500 and take that $12,500 and divide it among 300 people?
Right.
So I think when you argue that way, from a track standpoint and from a small player standpoint, it's an effective tool. The other side of it is, if I'm the guy that hits it, I'd much rather have 50 grand than 37.5. So I can see both ways, but I hope that explains a little bit how I came up with it. You've got to come up with new rules. And when Churchill implemented the pick 5 at Churchill, they basically copied what Fairgrounds was already doing, and they had no consolation. And that's why it didn't happen at Churchill. And they also, when they implemented at Churchill, if I recall correctly, they had no carryover provision. So it couldn't carry over. Mm-hmm. From a track standpoint, that's really not a very good decision. So when Gary Palmisano got to Churchill, Gary and I talked about it, and he agreed that was not. So now they do have a carryover provision. So I know a lot of people on Twitter think we don't think about stuff like that, but trust me that we do. And we look at it from not only the track standpoint, but from the player standpoint.
I personally, I'd say I'm a medium bettor. I mean, I'm not I don't bet thousands of dollars on a card, but I also don't bet $50 on a card either. I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I personally think it's good, Jim. I think giving back that 4 out of 5, and as you mentioned, the churn that will bring people back is important. And people, I think the more people that can actually have money in their pocket, the more people, not necessarily the more money for the higher bettors, I think is definitely the way to go. I have one question for you, Jim, and then we'll let you go unless Peter or Paul have a question or comment. This is from Jeff Amster on the bottom. Jim, setting aside fixed odds, why haven't the tracks tried to partner with the sports books to offer head-to-head and similar type bets for horse racing?
I know I can only answer in Kentucky. It's regulatory. You're mixing parimutuel and fixed odds is you're basically playing against the house rather than parimutually. That's a barrier. I'm not sure that barrier is insurmountable. But the head-to-head that we've tried from a parimutuel standpoint, if you remember, they tried it Breeders' Cup a number of years, didn't get much handle, way low compared to other wagers, and they dropped it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think one thing I've learned about sports wagering in the small time I've had the app is that the basic in-game betting and the changing of the odds. And I'll give you an example. The other day, Alabama was -7, and one of my customers had bet Alabama, and at halftime that dropped to -2.5 because they were down 1 point. So you could get Alabama -2.5 at home against Ole Miss, and I did it, and I won because they won by 14. I was right one time in my life, but that's not available in horse racing right now. So that's a key thing that I think that sports wagering could wind up influencing horse racing. But I think when you mix parimutuel and fixed odds, that's very difficult.
Well, Maiden Focus, who specializes with maidens, said he'd crush, I'd see on the bottom of the screen, I would crush those head-to-head horse matchups. And please do that with firsters, because he's one of those guys that deep dives into pedigrees and workouts and everything. Jim, listen, we really greatly appreciate your time. Pete and Paul, anything last thoughts or questions for Jim?
No, Jim, it occurred to me today, believe it or not, for the first time listening to you, that because I did win my entry to the BCBC in your contest, that I guess I technically will be representing Keeneland out there. So I will be going in Keeneland uniform, Jim.
You need to do that. Nothing could make me happier than somebody who qualifies at Keeneland going ahead and making the $400,000 that you're going to make at BCBC.
I might wear a Cody's Wish hat on Saturday, but I'll have my Keeneland hat at the ready.
Okay. Oh, he's running Saturday, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's running this Saturday. I'm going down to Aqueduct this Saturday to watch him run. Yeah. And we suspect we'll see him in the dirt mile. Everything goes well.
Keep my fingers crossed. That's a great story. That would help horse racing a lot, beside the fact that it's so good for Cody and his family. So that would be a great story.
Jim, we really appreciate your time. Again, I apologize for the link issue, but I look forward to seeing you next weekend. Look forward to seeing Misty and Jesse and everyone in the green room that takes care of everyone so well. And, of course, look forward to see you, my friend, at beautiful Keeneland Racetrack in Lexington, Kentucky next weekend. Thanks for coming on, Jim. We really
Thank you, Jim.
It. You're welcome, guys.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye, Jim. Everybody. Okay,
all right, bye-bye. All right, there you go, guys. I mean, he's so knowledgeable, and I'm glad he brought up the fact that there's so many different wagers out there. These guys, that's their job, Pete, is to deep dive into these wagers and figure out what works best for them. That's how they make their living. That's how a track runs.
Yeah, all that does is make me wish I had a bit different career path, because that'd be much more fun than my job. So
I hear you. Well, guys,
sports betting is a whole other frontier. It's sure because of the immediacy, because you can bet, literally, 100 times the same game if you want. It's a whole new world. But I like the fact that in Kentucky the bricks and mortar places are only racetracks. I like that.
That is good. That's a great idea.
That. Guys, let's go to Santa Anita. We've got a big pick 5 to cover. I already switched the background there to beautiful Santa Anita, Arcadia, California. There's major Breeders' Cup preps throughout the country this weekend, including Europe as well, which I mentioned on the show. If you didn't join us Tuesday, there's Breeders' Cup prep races in Europe Friday morning, Saturday morning, Sunday morning. I hear there's a big golf event in Italy also this weekend, which if you might set that alarm clock, or stay up wherever you are in the country, because I think first tee, I believe, is 12:30 a.m. Central Standard Time here, when those boys are going to kick it off in Europe for the Ryder Cup. But let's get to the great pick
Mr. Kravitz?
Yes.
Mr. Kravitz?
Yes.
This is one of your students. May I be excused to go to the bathroom, and I'll come right back?
Of course. Go ahead. Go ahead, Paul. I don't even have to write you a pass for that. All right. That's the first on the show, I think, Pete.
That is the first, yes.
I'm not going to wait. We went along, but we'll sort of go slowly here. The first race, Pete, of the pick 5 on Saturday at Santa Anita starts in race 6. It's the Santa Anita Sprint Championship. It's a grade 2. You see, it's a field of 9. And the morning line favorite is a horse that a lot of people know, who's a very talented sprinter, had a heartbreaking loss in the 21 Breeders' Cup at Del Mar, is the 9-5 favorite, Dr. Shivel for Glatt and Hernandez. Let me go bring up the banners we're seeing for the first time. And we are all somewhat similar. We got a lot of 3s and 2s in here. Paul, I'm going to have you go first. You are going with the favorite, Dr. Shivel, in this race.
Yeah, and I was on Dr. Shivel. That was a tough beat, Howard. I would agree with you. I have to admit, the Chosen Vron was a little better than I thought. I thought he was very good, but a little too good for my liking in that race. But I am a big Dr. Shivel fan. The horse shows up all the time, loves Santa Anita, and it's one of the things I was going to say, Pete, when we were killing time while Howard was trying to correct his sending out the wrong link. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't want to bring that up. But there are plenty of horses in this sequence, Pete. When you look at their running lines at Santa Anita, I wrote HFC, which I put in my notes, horse for course. I must have written that 10 times. you know? And this is one of them.
And we talk about the difference between how horses run between Santa Anita and Del Mar, and I'm sure we'll touch on that on a few
big time. And Del Mar is one of those places, not unlike Keeneland, Howard, as you know. Some horses love it and some horses don't. And let's just go back to the great Arrogate, who was a Hall of Famer and one of the great horses of our lifetime, who didn't like it at all at Del Mar. So anyway, but I do like Dr. Shivel. I think he's in the right spot here. I think that although Arabian Lion next door is a fairly tough customer, I'm not sure Arabian Lion is going to be quite as sharp at 6, but I do think the speed on the outside. You'll see I use Spirit of McKenna and Howard. We have a lot of chatter in the chat, so to speak, about Speedboat Beach, who I think is a really tough call in this race. But I am a Dr. Shivel fan. I think he gets a good trip from in there. JJ Hernandez is the top jockey out there, and he was a neck off last time in a very tough beat. I think he gets it done Saturday.
Yeah, he's got a big shot. He's going to get a good trip. He's 9-5. I have zero interest in betting on the win end at 9-5, but he is an A for me. I'm assuming he's an A also for Pete, as Pete has him second as well as I do. Pete, you and I are going to go with Arabian Lion, as Paul mentioned. The last race, we all know what happened. It was, of course, the tragedy with New York Thunder. I don't know what happened to Arabian Lion. I don't know if it was the ship, if it was the wet surface. You can't say it's the 7 furlongs. I'm going to give that horse a little bit of a pass. I think he is primed and ready to go, and I'd love the turn back for this horse because I don't think he needs the lead in this race.
No, and that's what I like about him. He's tactical, and the one thing about that race was Arabian Lion and Fort Bragg, the two Baffert horses, both ran pretty out of character for themselves, at least for this year. So my thought was it the track surface? Did it just, and for Arabian Lion was sitting on a hot pace chasing New York Thunder, which is no easy feat. So everything might have gone against Arabian Lion that day, which is why I just really like this horse in general. I just think he's talented, and he's not, excuse me, he's not the typical Baffert, just a pure speed, has to get the lead kind of horse. I like that he can be tactical. That race 2 back where he beat a pretty good field in the Woody Stevens. I think that's the kind of trip he gets here because there's no way a horse like Speedboat Beach most likely isn't going to the lead. So I just think he's tactical enough and talented enough. But, it's your first time against elders, so that's never easy the first time out. But I just think he's really talented.
And not only that, Pete, I think he's better tracking. I know he's won on the lead, but his best race was the Woody Stevens when I thought he was super impressive tracking on the inside. If you guys recall that day, I think he's going to, we've mentioned Speedboat Beach, and Michael Austin and Maine folks are having a little argument right now in the chat, which I love. I've seen some workouts of Speedboat Beach on tape. Man, is he fast. I mean, he's just so naturally fast. I mean, he ran a 104 first time out. He was a big story. If you guys remember, of course, last year, people wondered why did he go on turf. Bob's got him back to dirt. I don't like him in this spot personally. I'm using him defensively, but I think the plan here for the Baffert camp is for Espinoza to send hard, obviously, and then you got Speedboat Beach and Fort Bragg and Arabian Liar are going to sit. I think that's going to work well for both of those, frankly, Pete.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was puzzled as much as anyone as to why you break a track record in your debut with a 104 Beyer. Time form didn't love it as much, but it was pretty close. But and then why you go to the turf the next three and he had a couple of wins, but they weren't nearly as dominant and as impressive. And then he's been on the shelf. So we just, sometimes with a Baffert horse, a horse happens and comes and goes and you never hear from him again. But this one's back. I mean, he's working lights out, like you said. So who the hell knows? I could never leave him off my ticket, especially if you get double-digit odds.
Their Spirit of McKenna, I just want to show everyone that Paul likes a little bit, who ran some big figs in the spring, has not come back to those, but maybe this horse just wants Santa Anita. So that's very possible. And I'll just very quickly also show Fort Bragg, who some people, guys, have mentioned in the chat. This is a horse they like. I don't know if Fort Bragg is a 6 furlong horse, guys. I'm a little bit against him. I've got him third. I'm definitely going to use him. But of the three Bafferts, to me, Arabian Lion is pretty clearly the best of the three at this distance. Pete, you would obviously agree, but you're using the Fort Bragg also, Pete.
Yeah, I like the source. I mean, if nothing else, that beating Saudi Crown 2 back has been pretty good. That's pretty good. I mean, I was thinking for a better word than that, but yeah, it's flattering is the word I was looking for. It definitely has flattered his form. And again, you don't know. Last time was his first time on an off track, and he just didn't take to it. And you're right, though. Will this be a little sharp for him? You're not really sure, but if it does heat up front, he's usually pretty tactical and should work out a decent trip.
And for people that are thinking, and I mentioned this Tuesday, guys, without knowing the entries, we talked about the Breeders' Cup Sprint a little bit. Bob is going to be sending some horses in that race. There's going to be speed in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. So if everyone thinks Echo Zulu is just going to roll and win by 5, she might win that race if she goes against the boys, which is the plan. She's going to have to work for it, guys. There's just absolutely no way in California Bob Baffert is going to let East Coast horses roll to the lead without at least getting a challenge. So that's going to be fascinating to see.
Definitely a target for Elite Power to run at, for sure.
Yeah,
definitely decent targets for Elite Power.
And Paul, it'll be interesting to see which of those Bafferts go in the sprint, similar to what's happening Saturday, and which maybe go in the dirt mile, because certainly Arabian Lion and or Fort Bragg could stretch out into the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile and face Cody, and those would be formidable opponents as well.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see who goes where, but he can send who he wants. Between Echo Zulu, they're running for third after Echo Zulu and Elite Power in the sprint, so he can send all. He can take his whole barn and walk them all over.
I would agree with you. Let's go on to the next race, guys. I'll put the banners up actually right away. There's our banners, and let me go ahead and put up the race. Let me put this back on screen. You ever wonder when the racing secretary's sitting there saying, what race should I put in to separate the, I know, Pete, I agree with you. What race should we put in to separate these monster Breeders' Cup races? Hey, let's put in a Calbred 6.5 furlong, not down the hill, maiden turf sprint.
With all horses.
Why couldn't it be the first leg, Howard? Why couldn't it be the first leg?
Well, there aren't a lot of first-time starters. Why couldn't it be earlier in the card?
But we can at least see who's taking action.
Well, Paul, why not put in a nice allowance race there? I love Santa Anita. They do a great job. We're not here to rip on the racing secretary. I don't know. I'm a little bothered that it's not a higher quality allowance race, or maybe put a main special, a 2-year-old race where you can see the doubles I don't know. Anyway, let's just look at the race because it's a tough race and it's the second leg of the pick 5. Like I said, 6.5, it's on the flat. It's not down the hill. California breds, 2-year-old fillies, maidens, huge field of 11. Morning line favorite is the number 11, Safa, not Safi, Safa, for Gary Studi and Tiago Pereira. Let's go to you, Paul. You're going to go with one of these first, or maybe that's why you were sort of complaining, although we will be able to see the odds indirectly, Paul, when you see the probable will pays. You're going with the firster, Sancy Prancelot for Phil D'Amato and JJ Hernandez.
Yeah, who I think will take action. There's mixed statistics here, Pete. Pete's our stats guy.
Yep.
Sir Prancelot with first-time starters, 16%, which is good. Turf sprints, 27%, which is outstanding. But Phil D'Amato, for as good as he is, with first-time starters in turf sprints at Santa Anita, is only 10%. But I think there's some osmosis going on here between D'Amato and the pedigree and JJ Hernandez, the top jock out there. I think this horse will go favored, and he's my best guess. Let's put it that way. I did look at the 11 a lot, Howard. I was surprised that he was the morning line favorite. I don't love that. The sire is 17% with turf sprinters. Like Pete and I were saying earlier, we were delaying because you sent the wrong link to Jim Goodman.
That's right. But you just called a Philly a he, so we all make mistakes,
Oh, only once? Good.
So far, only once. But I've got my counter down here. I could be 5.
I don't want
the end of the night.
I don't want this 11 as the favorite by any means, but I think the horses in this race a must use. But yeah, I kind of defaulted to D'Amato, Howard. But like I said to Pete earlier, if some horse is really taking a lot of action in the doubles that you can see, then that might inform your decisions.
Real quick, oh, sorry, Howard. I was going to say real quick on the 11, a couple stats which if you're trying to go against a favorite. Gary Stute, 4 for 78 in general, just on the turf. So maybe not his strength, and 1 for 35 going dirt to turf. So if you're looking to, looking for reasons to play against a favorite, which half the time we usually are, maybe this just isn't his cup of tea.
Listen, she lost at 23-1 by 6 lengths, and everyone sees the 66 buyer, and I got sucked into this horse, having this horse second, mainly, Pete, because I like the fact she's got some early speed, and whenever I'm not sure what to do with the race, I'd sort of default to early speed, especially in a turf sprint. But I agree with you, Paul. The 9's got some breeding, just enough appeal, exchange rate there on the dam side. I had the same stats for D'Amato, 7 for 72 the last 5 years in maidens on the turf sprinting. As you said, 10%. So this is not what D'Amato does best, but maybe he's just found a field to do that with. Pete, you're going to go with the 4, who I have third, Asada Fries, 4-1 for Craig Lewis, who got in a little trouble last time and ran pretty well on turf, although it was a slow fig in her first race.
Yeah, it was and I guess you don't mind as much. Sometimes the figures can go up from, a first start to the second to the third. So I don't worry about that as much. I didn't mind the debut that bad. It was okay. Actually took money, was, 5-2 basically. Closed pretty well, really pretty much of a pretty slow pace. So there wasn't a ton to close into. The winner from that race wound up running second in a stakes race next out on dirt. So makes it more confusing, unfortunately. And then the last one actually went to dirt and didn't run badly. And there was one of those where the winner just gets away. We were talking about it with the 11. The horse who won that race just sort of got away, and it was an easy broke away. So the losing by 9 doesn't concern me that much. I thought this horse might like a little bit extra distance. Has no early speed, though, so we're going to need a little something up front. And it's hard to tell. There isn't a ton of pace on paper, so I don't know if there's going to be speed or not.
This race is just very difficult.
It's a tough race.
It's really so difficult, guys. I'm going with a complete guess, but I have reasons why. I like the 10. Look at her glide a little bit for Papa Bedromo, who actually was standing right in front of me when he won a race at Kentucky Downs, which was pretty cool. And I met him and was able to shake his hand. Very nice gentleman. Did you see the breeding guys? Artie Schiller. There's gliding by, who also did well sprinting. So the dam it was a nice turf horse. Looking at Lucky, Smart Strike. If you watch the replay, we're not going to show it just to move things along. Guys, she broke a little bit slow. She was climbing. She has that kind of high knee action that I really like on turf. Puts blinkers on. It has been working well. 12-1 morning line. You could do worse, right? I mean, I think it has some interesting angles. It's a guess, to be honest. Watch the board. I'm going to see how the 9 is being played, Paul. If the 9's taking a lot of money, I'm going to upgrade her in my ABC. Otherwise, I mean, it's a complete spread race and a very tough leg 2. Let's go to leg 3, guys. Leg 3 gets back to the stake races, and as I already mentioned, there are 4 stake races. They're all basically Breeders' Cup preps. But guys, this is the biggest one because of the 4, this is the only one that is a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup at the same racetrack, of course, in almost, guys, a month now. It is sneaking up on us. Here it is. It is the awesome, again, it's a grade 1, $300,000 is the purse. It's for the older males, mile 8th on the dirt. It's a prep for the Breeders' Cup Classic, and you see the field of 9. The morning line favorite is number 2, Defunded, for Baffert and Maldonado. Let me go ahead and bring up the banners here and see where we're going. And we are quite different in this race, actually. Let's go to Pete first. Pete and Paul are both going with the morning line favorite, Defunded. And I'm guessing a big angle for you guys, and Pete, I'll have you go first, is that Defunded really wants to get back to the great race place at Santa Anita.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I don't particularly like the horses in this field that much. I shouldn't say I don't like them. I don't necessarily trust them to string together good races. So Defunded has actually gone the other way and has strung together a couple of bad ones, but they were at least at Del Mar. He's coming back to where he just seems to run much better. I mean, you see the April and May races at Santa Anita, grade 2, grade 1 wins. I like the fact that he doesn't need to be on the lead because there is other speed horses in here. National Treasure, they're putting the blinkers back on, so he probably has no choice but to go to the lead. Stiletto Boy sometimes goes to the lead. There's speed in here, so you're comfortable with Defunded sitting off if necessary. And again, I think his best is maybe better than some of the others in here. So hopefully getting back to his favored track will bring that out of him. But again, at 2-1, not a horse I would most likely play on a win end, but he would be on a horizontal ticket.
Paul?
Yeah, the horse has actually won twice at Del Mar, 2 for 7, but I do look at this horse, Howard, as one that falls into the category of what we talked about a few minutes ago. I think this horse definitely likes Santa Anita, obviously 5 for 9. And even with the 2 wins, I don't think the horse necessarily loves Del Mar. I played the horse last time, and, he should be well rested in this race because he did not lift his hooves last time at 5-1. But yeah, I like the distance for the horse. I like the, inside going the route of ground. To Pete's point, I don't think it's a tremendous field. Someone had in the chat earlier about National Treasure. I'll tell you, he can beat me. I think the Preakness is a total one-off. That was a terrible field. This horse was able to walk around on the lead. And, the Belmont was too far. The Travers, he was around for a while. Maybe a mile and an eighth. I don't know. That horse can beat me all day. I don't think that horse is that good. And as a result, and I think we'll take money. Someone mentioned Skinner in the chat. I don't think Skinner is really that good, to be honest with you. Slow Down Indy, I look at as a board horse, always around, but doesn't usually complete the job. So I don't know. Maybe it's a default. Senior Buscador, be careful of him at a price on the rail.
Okay. Well, Paul, your good buddy there on the screen, Pete, disagrees. He likes National Treasure. I agree with you about National Treasure. Obviously, Paul, we've talked about this horse ad nauseum. I don't like him at all, but there are 2 things that are interesting. And this is one of the reasons why I don't love the 2. And I could be completely wrong about Defunded because you guys know I've chased this horse a little bit. Maybe it is the track. I don't like, guys, the jockey musical chairs. I don't like that JJ Hernandez gets off defunded to run National Treasure. And I'm not ready to say that upgrades National Treasure because I don't like National Treasure, but it's a reason for me to downgrade defunded. Pete, you got to back your National Treasure second pick here and talk about the jockey situation, because to me, for right or wrong, it matters a little bit. I found that to be very interesting.
Yeah, it does matter a little bit. Excuse me again. I guess the only thing would be, and I don't know if this was to be the case because it was a while back, but at least Maldonado had ridden defunded before. Hernandez did ride defunded, but now if you're saying to National Treasure, if you don't have Velasquez, who's maybe his other, who's the other top jock you could put on? And I think that would be JJ. So you do that. Yeah. Whereas Maldonado, and again, I tend not to get bogged down in that stuff, just because you could talk yourself off a horse or onto a horse, and meanwhile your reasoning could be completely wrong. So without
let me ask you a question. I got to interrupt. So this is a win in urine. It's a big race, right? It's a win in urine. I think we'd all agree that Hernandez is the better jockey and more accomplished. Wouldn't Baffert want the best jockey on his best horse in this race?
Well, maybe, or
is it a stylistic issue?
I was going to say maybe it's stylistic to where National Treasure maybe defund is a little easier because he's a little more versatile, so you don't have to. Whereas National Treasure, we were all confused, right, in the Travers when National Treasure took the blinkers off and didn't just gun to the lead because you figure that's his only shot. So you figure maybe here, let's just get this horse on the lead. Maybe JJ is better. Maybe Baffert thinks he's better equipped to just do that. They put the blinkers back on. Again, I don't love any of these horses, so it's hard because they're not consistent race to race in terms of winning necessarily. Some of them, like the one you're about to talk about, is pretty consistent, at least hitting the board.
Well, Matt Miller's got a comment. Did anyone catch Howard's eyebrow go up when Paul mentioned slow down Andy? If that doesn't signal a power pick, a tip play, I don't know what does. Wow, we got balloons in the background. What was that about? Wait, what's going on there, Paul?
I have no idea.
Did you guys see that?
Yeah, I did. I saw it. I have no idea what happened.
Did someone Okay, I'm completely at a loss. I don't know.
It's a good point. I wish I knew how to do it. I'd do it the whole show.
that must mean slow down Andy.
Who wants to look at me?
For people that are at home, for people that are listening to this, we basically just saw like a bunch of like party balloons go in front of Paul, like it's a graphic. I don't know who did that or where that came from, but okay, interesting.
I think Michael Austin has hacked into my computer.
I don't know what's going on. Anyway, let's move on. Slow Down Andy is a horse that's grown on me, guys. And yes, he has not won since the Del Mar Derby. I have no argument there. Guys, he's run 2 big races. I mean, he ran well in the Dirt Mile 4-back, the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. He's run well this year. He was in the Met Mile. That was, a tough spot. He was on the lead off a layoff with Cody in there. But guys, the San Diego Handicap, he lost to Senior Buscador, who's come back to flatter his form because Senior Buscador ran well in the Pacific Classic. And Slow Down Andy ran great in the Pacific Classic. He was a little bit rank early. He got a nice trip 3 wide. And the only people that he lost to horses is Arabian Night and Go Rocket Ride, Paul. And they're not in here. So if I have questions on defunded, I don't like National Treasure. I do like Skinner a little bit. I have him second. Senior Buscador also doesn't win that much and has to come from behind. I hate to use default, but I like Slow Down Andy. I think he's getting better and better. I'm going to go with him. It's not a strong pick, but I like him, and I wouldn't rule out Skinner as we're going to move on to the next race, guys. And I liked him in the Pacific Classic a little bit. He was wide. It didn't work out. I don't think he wants 1.25 miles. I like Smith on him, and I think he's interesting. Maybe I've just got sucked into this horse because of what he did in the spring, guys. But I just see talent here, and I have a lot of questions in this race. A lot of questions.
And Howard, how do you not have Senior Buscador in the top 3 if you like Slow Down Andy?
Because I don't think there's a lot of speed in this race early, and I don't think the race flow is going to develop, because I think National Treasure is going to go, Paul, and Slow Down Andy and Defunded are going to sit. And Senior Buscador seems to only win when there's a pace meltdown, and I just don't see it here. But I am using him defensively, Paul. I don't think Santa Anita is conducive to this kind of situation where he's going to close from 8-10 back. I just don't see it. I like the horse.
he only wins at 1.16 down too. He
go.
runs well in the other races, but that's what's scary. By the way, on your slow down, Andy, if you want a quick poo-poo stat, which I love to do.
We like to poo-poo. We always love
I love it. I love it. Doug O'Neill, 0 for 29 in grade ones at Santa Anita, just for shits
Paul,
and
whenever
giggles.
I'm ready to make a big play, Pete always just comes there and puts the
No, that's good.
He never
that's
comes
good.
out and says, "Howard, that's a great idea. Look at this stat." It's always.
I mean, I could make one up for you if you'd like. I could easily make one up.
But he won the cotillion. Doug O'Neill won the cotillion.
Yeah, that wasn't at Santa Anita though.
Good point. With Edward Maldonado, by the way, who rode very well.
Yes,
it is a very, very good guy. In case anyone cares.
No, Pete, I'm glad you do that. I'm glad because it gives me I can't look at every.
I think he's going to win one of these. I think he's going to win one of these races though, because he's always knocking on the door. So maybe it will be this week.
By the way, someone that I'm not going to mention left the show in the chat because they had to watch some football game. Guys, we know football's on. That's why we went early. Just put it on.
Who cares about this division anyway? The division is crap.
Put it on mute and listen to us. I mean, it's not that hard, Paul, is it? I mean, come on.
The football game is going to be going on for the next 4 hours.
Yeah, we're going to be done in 15 minutes. I mean, give us a
correct.
All right. Anyway, we love our viewers. Just talking. Let's
not
go
if you let me and Paul talk. We could probably outlast the game if you let us go.
Maybe I should just sign off right now. Let you guys just take care of the next 2 hours. Sounds good to me. All right. I love talking to everyone here. Let's go to race 9. This is the penultimate leg of the pick 5. It's the Eddie Delahousie. What a great rider. I think people don't realize how good a rider he was.
Great.
You want a closer, Pete. I know we both like closers in general. You want a closer, Eddie D. Wow. Was he great on closers, turf, dirt? It doesn't matter. The Eddie D Stakes, let me bring it up on the screen, is down the hill. Hold on, guys. We got to come back. Yay, we're down the hill. All right. Pete, not a fan?
No, I love down the hill. I think we're more mad that the Breeders' Cup isn't down the hill.
Please.
That was more my. That was my.
Don't
I
even
was
me
shaking my head for that. I apologize. Yes, no. I love down the hill. Yes.
What a ridiculous nonsense to not running that down the hill. Anyway, it's 5 furlongs for people that don't know what we're referring to. The Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint at Santa Anita this year. This race, though, is down the hill. It's the Eddie D, Grade 2. I suppose it's a prep, guys, for the Breeders' Cup Sprint, but obviously there's a huge difference between 5 and 6.5. Although there are some horses in this race that you guys might have seen recently because we talked about the Green Flash Stakes, if you remember that, at Del Mar, which is 5 furlongs. Elaine Way, for example. I believe Bran was in that race also. But I know there's a horse that Pete's very interested in this race. There's the field. Like I said, 200,000 down the hill. Morning favorite is the number 2, Bran. Sadler and JJ Hernandez. Let me put the picks on the screen. And I will say before we go to Pete and Paul, who are chalking out with Bran, so let me do that right now then. The connections guys have said that Bran is not going to the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. They are going to stay just with the sort of fall and winter and early spring stakes at Santa Anita. They are not going to the Breeders' Cup. I guess they don't feel like the horse quite classes up. But the Bran is definitely going to be a big factor in this race right there. Paul, you're going to go first. What do you like about Bran going down the hill on Saturday?
Well, he likes going down the hill. Number one, I got to tell you, Howard, I was so close to picking Balnikov, who I have second. I think Balnikov is fascinating in this race. 6.5 down the hill is. It's not. It's a sprint in name only, right? It's very difficult to go all the way. I just don't think there's enough pace in this race for Balnikov. But
really?
Well, for the way he runs, I mean, he really needs a pace to close into. But he will be flying late. It's trip from in there and how far back he is. But I'm definitely using Balnikov all over the place. But I think there'll be pace, but he really is a pace dependent horse, I think, if you look at the way he runs. But he shows up in the stretch, and down the hill we want someone coming from behind in the stretch typically. I mean, I think there is some speed. but I didn't think enough, so I kind of defaulted to Bran. I think Bran is pretty good. The horse wins. I just, again, he likes down the hill. He's won twice. He likes Santa Anita. I think he gets a decent trip. Certainly, Belnikov's not going to get in his way early because Belnikov walks out of the gate. So I landed on Bran, but I will be using Belnikov, especially in one of our special little reverse try keys, Howard.
Very nice. We feel the same way about Balnikov. I have that 1 second. I'll talk about Balnikov a little more in a minute. Pete, why don't you expound the virtues also of Bran? You've got him on top. And by the way, if you guys look at the bottom of the screen, it's pretty unusual that two of us of the three have a horse on top and the other person does not have that horse anywhere in the top three. So one of us is going to be really wrong or really right, mainly me. But I'll talk about Bran in a second. Pete, what do you like about Bran?
I mean, pretty much everything Paul said. The only thing I'll add is, again, he was off a year-long layoff in the last one in the Green Flash. I think that was a little sharp for him too. And he also was just way in the back. So he didn't break well. He was sort of stuck way in the back. And still, he closed a little bit, didn't do much, was sort of wide. But I looked at that as maybe that was just sort of a tightener, a prep race for this. So the way I was looking at it was, if that's all that was, we have Hernandez back up again. We know Bran likes it better here than at Del Mar, we assume. So getting him back to the track that he likes and getting him at a little bit more, getting more distance. We know this plays a little longer. He can come from, I think he'll be a little bit more tactical. Hopefully this time he won't be stuck way in the back. And again, he's working well. So it shows that maybe off that last race, he's just sharper now, second off a year-long layoff, and maybe just ready to run. And I mean, he's just high quality. Aside from last race, he always runs his race and he's always right there. Sometimes he wins, sometimes he doesn't, but he always gives you his best.
Noah Maher in the chat from Bet and Booza. Noah, thanks for joining the show. We're going to see you next week, and we're going to see Noah, of course, because he's a student at the University of Kentucky. He said divorce papers. Noah, if you want to clarify, if you're still watching, I'm not sure who he means divorce papers, if he means Bran or not. Guys, here's my thing on Bran. Again, he can win. I'm not saying he can't win. His biggest fig was a 101, right? And that was a Kentucky Downs, Paul's favorite track.
I love it.
Right. I know you do. Look, guys, he's run low to mid 90s most of his career. He could be better second off a layoff, but there is other speed in this race. He's probably going to get a good trip. I don't like him at a low price. And I think there's others that are a lot more interesting. And Paul, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit on the speed situation, because in my opinion, this 3 might be going with blinkers on for Mandela. The 5 is going for Noble Reflection, who, by the way,
5's going.
The 5 won 3 back. I don't know if you guys remember, but I picked that horse on top actually way back in April when he set a track record, and I liked him a little bit at a price. You probably don't remember that, but I do. But anyway, this horse is definitely going for sure.
Agree with that.
Yeah. And I think, the 8 is not that slow with Bravo. I think, that horse is going to go. It's hard for me to believe that there's not going to be a fast pace in this race. And because of that, I'm going to go with the 7, guys. I'm a gambler. I love the turn back from a mile to down the hill. Guys, it's a big angle for me. It's worked very well. It's worked for many handicappers. Will it work for me on Saturday? I don't know. Guys, he always looms up. He takes the lead. And then mid-stretch, he just can't quite get there. But that's because he's running a mile. Look what he did in France. In Great Britain, excuse me. He was a turf sprinter going mainly 6 and 7. That's what this horse wants to do. He's run big figs against nice horses. I see no reason why I'm a gambler, guys, cannot just sit off the speed and go by in the lane. The stamina is going to be there. I agree with you, Paul, on Balnikov. The one thing I'll mention about Balnikov, and then we'll get any final thoughts from you guys and move on. Little Red Feather, Billy Koch, sharp people, right, guys? There must be a reason why they're sending this horse here and not in the next race, which is the City of Hope going a mile. Because I was like, why is it Balnikov in that race? You know why? They must think that this horse could handle the down the hill. And again, another turn back. I love this horse down the hill. I don't love the rail, though, for this horse, Paul, because that is not good down the hill. It's the opposite kind of situation there. But this horse will be absolutely flying late. I'm going 7-1-6. Final thoughts, Peter, Paul, with the 7. Pete, you've got third or anything else. We'll go to last race.
I would bet the 7 to win, so I'm with you. To me, the 2, 6, and the 7 were sort of all even A's for me. Okay. So I put them in this order just because no reason really. I have all 3 as sort of the same sort of tier. I really like the 7 as well. So I have no argument against that. Balnikov, to me, I think you hit on the nail on the head. I worry that he's going to get shuffled too far back and it's going to be a little sharp for him. He'll be flying and he'll get third or second. And I like what Paul said about putting him, if he was a little higher odds too, it'd be better if you can get him in double digits and you can get him in sort of that second, third back wheel kind of spot would be awesome.
So people are still commenting about the balloons, by the way. I guess we're all old. So Bedry said, don't teach Paul how to do that. He'll do it all show. He'll just be
without question.
Now listen, if you can do balloons with that graphic, I'm sure you can do some other stuff that we probably shouldn't say and mention on the show, like little poo-poo drops coming, the emoji poo-poos dropping down or something. I don't know. Who knows what you can do.
By the way, we should mention Richard mentioned in the chat that Lane WAYI, because it's a my racehorse, will probably take some money. So Lane WAYI could get bet down even more and has a really good shot, I think, in this race. I think the last race was too sharp. Again, another one off a 9-month, basically a 9-month, or I guess it looks more like 8-month layoff, getting back to down the hill, which he loves. So you're getting the 6 horse. He's probably going to be too low of a price, but he loves it down the hill. He loves Santa Anita, and he's second off of a pretty long layoff. So he makes a ton of sense as well.
Jose Manuel Camacaro, desde Bejumo Caraboro, Venezuela. So he's from Venezuela. What's up, Jose? ¿Cómo estás? Estoy bien. Thanks for joining the show, man. We love our Latin American viewers. Maybe he knows Siggy Mendoza. We should ask if Jose knows Siggy Mendoza. But anyway, we love our Latin American viewers. Let's get some more, Jose. Bring your amigos on the show. Let's get some more a bigger fan base from Latin America. Guys, we've seen the demographics. We literally have people from all over the world that watch this show. It is pretty cool. From Europe, from Asia, from the Mideast. It's pretty neat. Let's go to the last race, guys, because we want to find all these people a winning pick 5 ticket on Saturday. So let me go switch the banners here. The last race, it's the City of Hope Mile. We just mentioned. Let me take this banner off the screen right now and bring up this one. Guys, they're going a mile. It's a grade 2 on the turf. Another good field of 9. Moorline favorite off the layoff for D'Amato and Hernandez. The number 4, Hong Kong Harry. Like I said, 5-2. Morning line. You see a lot of 4s and 7s on the screen. Pete, we'll start with you. Pete is a little unusually a bit chalky tonight. Pete going with Hong Kong Harry. Nothing wrong with that, Pete.
No, I was pissed. I was pissed because I sent you the picks before I saw the morning line, and then when I saw the morning lines, I was like, oh crap! I might have switched them a bit, but you pick who you like. There's nothing you could do about that. Yeah. And none of them are huge chalk. So Hong Kong Harry, I think he's another one. We talked about the HFC that horse for course. Did I get those letters right? Yes, that Paul mentioned earlier. 3 for 5 at Santa Anita, likes the distance. And the one thing for him that I sort of noted was he hasn't really reached sort of his peak that he had in 2022 when he was just awesome. But the difference is, too, the 3 races he's had in 2023 are all grade 1s. So the competition, and he lost to Exalted, who's great, Up to the Mark, who's great, Gold Phoenix, who's pretty great. He's been losing to high-quality competition. This one seems like maybe they're taking him back, and D'Amato's putting him back amongst horses that he might just be better than. So I think that little bit of class relief, especially just on the top end, so maybe not depth, but I think that puts him more in the position of, hey, I'm just as good or better than these horses, as opposed to running up against some monsters that are harder to run down. That's pretty much it.
I'm gonna have to read about this horse. My guess, and this is a guess, maybe someone out there already knows. Maybe the information's already out there. Pete and Paul, this looks like that they rested him up on purpose to get a prep and then go to the Breeders' Cup mile and take their chances there.
Take a shot. Why
I
not?
don't know if the horse was hurt, but it doesn't look that way. There's nothing wrong with taking a shot. He loves this course. He's a very honest American. He's got absolutely no chance at hell to finish in the top 2, probably in the Breeders' Cup mile, in my opinion, if some good Euros come. That being said, he's probably one of the better milers along with Casa Creed in the United States, and he's going to be on his home turf. So that's what it looks like to me.
You don't get too many opportunities to run the Breeders' Cup at your track.
No,
so who the heck cares? If you got a quality horse, put him in.
Yeah. This is the horse to beat, right, Paul? Assuming he's ready. I don't know if he's going to be 100% cranked, but he's probably going to be, you'd think, 90% cranked, you would think.
Yeah, but, I think the ride's going to be really important here, Howard. Again, I think he's a little pace dependent as well.
Yeah, he is.
And I don't think, looking at this race on paper, at least there are how many horses? 9, I think. I don't think you're winning this race from 7th. I think he's got to be more like mid-pack to win this race. So I'm going to, kind of trust that Hernandez will do that. I think I used the 5 second for that reason. Although I hate playing horses that were 21-1 last time, will be lower this time. But I do think the 5 has a chance to lead this. And again, I might be reading this wrong, but I don't see this as being a meltdown type race. I think the horse you like, who I'm using as an A, Twist, has a chance to be tactical. I'm not sure what Kent DeSomo was doing last time, having him that far back, but clearly that's not how he wants to run.
He'd love to move. He'd love to move the Barrios there.
Oh, absolutely.
Can we watch the stretch here? Someone in the chat, I'm trying to remember who said Twist is their best. I think Richard Avalar. There it is. His best bet of the day. I've got a 3-star play here on Twist, and my stars are out of 4, not 5. I just want to show the stretch run. We haven't shown a lot of replays tonight, guys. Very quickly, this is the race that was won by De Jour. Twist is the 9. Aradeo is the 10, by the way, who's also in this race. Watch the stretch run, guys, here, because this is something to pay attention to. Let me get to the end here. Let me freeze it right here. Okay, Twist is right here. And instead of going wide, the jock side decide to stay on the inside. And right here next to him in the white cap is Irideo. Watch what happens to Twist, guys. He's right here. And, oh, boy, that was a bad study if you guys saw that there, right? And then now he's on the wrong lead, and he's in between. And right about here is when he's able to sort of gather and straighten himself out. And the jock just gave him one right-handed tap, and he's passing horses. And that one steady, and it's right here. There's Aradeo, there's Twist. I'm going to show one more time in case people didn't catch it. Again, watch this horse right here in the Sadler green. I'll just let everyone watch it. Your thoughts here, guys, on this study?
Ooh. No, I agree. I agree. Yeah, I mean, he could have easily at least gotten second or been close to second.
I agree with that.
In that race. Yeah, I mean, obviously De Jour was a monster that day. He wasn't beating him.
Right.
But he could have at least finished in the money and would have looked a little cleaner on. Yeah, I mean, I assume the Barrios moved back over to Barrios again had to be part of what you liked about it. Yeah, agree, Noah, 100%.
Can you read that, Pete, for people that are listening?
Yeah, Noah mentioned DeSormo to Barrios is a huge upgrade. No hatred intended or necessary, but it's definitely an upgrade. And he's run on this horse, so Barrios is familiar with Twist as well. So, you like that a bit as well.
We got here come the Latin Americans. There we go. Brixmar Desire Avila Chacon. Como se llama ese caballo del Bidio? Very nice. All right. How do you say the horse? I don't know Bidio. I'm sorry. There you go. But anyway, I know some Spanish, but not enough sorry about that. But anyway, we love our Latin American viewers. I'm sure someone will comment there. What cool Kev. Hey, look, throwing some beers our way, guys. Cool Kev. Salute, fellas. All right. There you go. I just got my water, but while I have a beer after the show on you, Cool Kev. Thanks a lot, man, for joining the show. Appreciate that. Okay. I think that covers everything we want to get to, guys. Let's go to our, it's a fun race. And I like Twist quite a bit. Let's go to our pick fives and end our tickets here and end the show. And again, for those of you that are new, we have a lot of new viewers. Thanks for watching. We have shows Wednesday nights, Thursday nights. We have a lot of shows coming up for the Breeders' Cup. Please tell your friends about the HHH Racing Podcast. Go to our YouTube channel, Go to our website. We've got power picks. We got a lot of things going on. We've been on for a little over 2.5 years. We have a ton of subscribers, thousands of listeners and viewers. Really appreciate the love that everyone shows out there for the show. Let's go to the pick fives, guys. Here we go. Pete, you're going first. Pete's pick five ticket, 2-3. We're going to go pretty quick, guys. 2-3 with 4-6-9, with 2-7, with 1-2-6-7, with 4-5-7-8. That's a $96 ticket, Pete.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is I had a tough time putting a ticket together because I probably would have gone deeper in a couple of races. I probably wouldn't play it this way because I couldn't find a single to lean on. So even in the first leg where I went skinny with Arabian Lion and Dr. Shivel, I would actually, at first, I think I was about 4 deep there in the Awesome Again. The Awesome Again, I probably could have added another horse. And then in the second leg, we talked about, Paul and I, that race is wide open. Who the heck knows? I went 3 deep, but I probably could have gone 6 deep in that one. And the last two, I actually wound up going a little bit deeper there just because I felt like the horses, I couldn't separate my top choices, so I didn't want to chop any. So nothing too, there's not real strategy as much as I just wanted to make sure I covered the horses that I really liked, and I want to include a couple of prices along the way.
I just noticed our banner on the top right, for those that are watching, it's like a beautiful moon shining over the wonderful Arcadia racetrack of Santa Anita. It just fits perfectly on there, and the color scheme is nice. Pete, I like your ticket, especially going thin in the first race. You'll see my ticket. I feel the same way, as does Paul Halloran, who's also going 2-3 to start his ticket. And what's this dollar amount at the end? Well, we'll get to
my ticket. My ticket was 108 too, Paul, and I
don't you watch the national news? There's inflation.
There's also maybe a shutdown, unfortunately, but that's not a laughing matter.
By the way, shutdown on Sunday. I'll be doing a 1-day trip to Aqueduct and back because we're not interested in the air traffic controllers being not paid on a day and having them be a little less enthusiastic about their job. So I'll be coming back right after the race. Anyway, Pete, we could do business if you look at our 2 tickets. We could put a ticket together with
I was thinking that.
Very similar.
I think we had the last 3 or so. We had the horse on top the same. So yeah, we might have to talk about that.
Paul, of all the things that we don't want in this country would be less enthusiastic air traffic controllers.
Correct.
That's not a good
yeah, and we all have you've got a flight coming up next week. We got Santa, fifth place. Okay. So I wish I could have found a single, to be honest with you, because I would like to.
Paul, sorry, we didn't read your ticket.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 2-3 with 2-5-9-11 with 1-2-8 with 1-2-5 with 4-5-7. I would like to be a little deeper in leg 2. And I wouldn't hate being one more deeper in leg 4. I almost only went 2 deep in the penultimate leg, which is the 9th race, and that is the Eddie D. I am using Belnikov. I almost went 1-2 there. But I got a feeling as a really crazy horse, I did put Noble Reflection on my ticket, Howard. Just because
I remember how much that horse frustrated you when he won. I remember talking about it.
Yeah, but again, we'll see. I don't think the race is as fast as you do. I mean, down the hill's not a good format for a slow wire to wire thing. But anyway, that would be an option, taking him out and going deeper in those other 2. But I'm with Pete that I'm going to try to get by the first leg with those 2. There you go.
All right. My ticket is actually quite different, and I like when we're different, guys, because it gives people at home listening and watching different opinions of what they want to do. So I'm slightly different for certain reasons. My ticket is under budget. It's $96. I am also going 2-3. I'm going to use other horses in the sprint first leg, but I'm mainly 2-3 also, just chalking out. I'm going 2-3 with 4, 5, 7, 9, 10, 11, with 3-4. With 1-2-6-7, with 4-7. The race I'm worried about most, which I think is pretty obvious based on our handicapping on my ticket, would be the Awesome Again. only 3-4 is very risky. That'd be Skinner and Slow Down Andy. Yes, I'm using Defunded. I'm using actually, as I look at my ticket, and this will be part of our Power Picks tip sheet. So if you belong to our Power Picks tip sheet, you'll see all of our ABC grids. Guys, I am, as of right now, going 6 to 7 deep in the Awesome again. There's just a lot of horses I do not trust. I like 4-7 in the last. I know it's chalky. I know 2-3 is chalky. To me, the price will be in leg 2, guys, because I don't know what the hell is going to happen in that turf sprint. And I'm going a little bit deeper in the down the hill race because, again, I don't love turf sprints even down the hill. And I don't know. I have some questions in that race, too. So there's my $96 ticket. Guys, as we close the show, Mr. Halloran, we'll go to you first. We got Copper Missile, one of our horses that we all have a small piece of, running in race 4 at Churchill on Saturday. There's a great card in Belmont. You're going to be at Belmont for Cody's Wish. You got Santa Anita, 2 great also stake races at Churchill that we previewed on Tuesday. I love this time of year, Pete. This is one of my favorite months from now until the Breeders' Cup. It's going to be awesome.
Go ahead,
Paul. Yeah,
and
I have
for you, Paul.
Yeah, I have St. James the Great. My Catholic boy that I own a little piece of is running Sunday at Laurel.
Oh, good luck. There. Good luck with St. James the Great.
And
hey, if you need somebody to represent you in the winner's
let's
circle,
go, Pete. He's going to win, Pete. Let's go. He's actually on the AE. He's got to draw in. He's the first also eligible. Howard, I assume you won't be at Keeneland by Thursday, which is too bad because slated to run on opening day is
Dracone?
Dracone, yes.
I was going to ask you when Dracone was running next. That's
Dracone is going to enter, if everything goes well, in the non-winners of 2 allowance on Thursday, opening day.
Really? Well, good luck to you, Paul. I'm not going to be.
Yeah, he's run well. He ran well in Saratoga. He's run well.
He did. Good luck to Dracone.
Twice.
That's going to be a fun spot. My flight gets in Saturday at post time race 1. So I'm actually getting in a little bit later for this next weekend, but I'm staying through Monday because that's Columbus Day, guys, the Monday after the Fall Stars weekend. And I'm playing golf with Kyle Roscoe and Noah Maher in Lexington. How about that? That's how I'm spending my day off.
Good.
So that'll be
good.
Nice.
Nice.
Pete, final thoughts. Pete Visco.
It's a great weekend. I mean, there's stakes races all around. We're getting close to Breeders' Cup time, so we'll see. These are most of these horses, or all of these horses, the last time we're going to see them before the Breeders' Cup. So pay attention. And then, like you said earlier, Howard, overseas there's a bunch. The Arc is this weekend, so it's a great weekend for racing, top to bottom.
No, it's a great weekend. It's a great time of year. The weather is pleasantly cool. Hopefully in the east we'll get some more sun because it's been brutal, I know, in the northeast there with the weather. But we really thank everyone for watching. We also want to thank Jim Goodman, director of wagering at Keeneland, who does a tremendous job, and I'm going to see him next weekend as well. Please, again, check out our Power Picks below the video player. Regular Power Picks on Saturdays. Keeneland only Power Picks are now on sale. Again, look below the video player for all of the information in the description. For Jim Goodman, Pete Visco, Paul Halloran, this has been Howard Kravitz, episode 293 of the HHH Racing Podcast. Crush your bets. I think we should all say it together sometime. Crush your bets. Hopefully it's all sunshine and balloons, Paul Halloran, at Saturday at Santa Anita. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.